It's time for you to start being honest with yourself. If you don't have the energy that you want at the end of your day, if you feel like every time you have a moment of rest, it doesn't really feel like rest, then you need to start being more honest with yourself about what you do enjoy, what you don't enjoy, what you value and what you don't value, whether or not you're sacrificing your literal life force and your time for someone else's dream or for someone else's company, whatever it is, for someone else's benefit. The bottom line is it's your life. And if you're not enjoying it, then you're doing a disservice to yourself. Oftentimes, I've found that when you are sitting by yourself, let's say you have a clear day, you made it to the weekend, and you finally get some time to yourself, and you have this feeling of uneasiness that comes over you. You're like, okay, well, I don't have any obligations. Like, I already went shopping, I already did the dishes, I already did my week of work, and now I finally made it to the point where I can feel happy, right? But you don't really feel that way. You don't feel content. If that's you, then you need to be more honest with yourself. I mean, really, really, really honest. If you don't feel content, it means that you don't love all parts of yourself. That's the bottom line. Like like you can't fathom like how am I supposed to appreciate like this previous version of me that I still feel is with me? Or how do I deal with the version of myself that loses their train of thought for a second? Or I can't remember this thing and it should be simple to remember that, right? Or I can't keep up with my own standards. All of these things just point to not actually appreciating and loving yourself. When you have that moment where you're supposed to be content and you don't feel content and you feel like the other shoe is going to drop at any moment. And even while you're at work, like if you're working a job and like you feel like you don't like it, you're not recognizing there's some part of you that you need to be honest with yourself to recognize that there's a part of you that you don't appreciate, that you wish was different. I wish I was more productive. Why? Um, because society says that's important. Okay. Well, what do I think about it? That's what you should be asking yourself. What do I think about it? The game of life is this game of remembering who you are. We go through our life and we get all these filters and we put these filters on our perceptions and then we judge ourselves for them consciously and unconsciously. And then we realize we're 10 years into a career that we don't really care about, or we've made a decision in our lives that we can't understand why we made that decision when we made that decision. When really you can. You can trace it back. You can be honest with yourself. You can answer it, say, this was, I acted from all the knowledge I had, all the emotion I had in that moment, and I made that decision. But the longer you deny that, the longer you look outside yourself and you say, oh, well, the external world made me do that, the longer you'll remain discontent. We live in the external world, but you have a whole internal world that you can't access if you're not being honest with yourself. If you're not saying, well, I am who I am and I love myself for being that way. I love that I made that decision that now I now is hard to imagine making the same decision. I love that version of myself because that version of myself was running interface right then, and they needed to be. And I learned what I do and I don't prefer from that. I mean, what more can you ask for than to know what you do and don't like, and then to make a life that allows you to live by that to whatever degree you really can, and also to pursue a passion. But you can't pursue a passion until you're honest with yourself about what you really like. Forgive me, my voice is a little scratchy. So, you need to start being honest with yourself. Integrate these parts of yourself that you don't really appreciate or understand. because you do understand them, but you haven't had the conversation with yourself to say, it's okay that I feel this way. It's okay to not know why you feel that way either, if that really is the case, but a lot of the time you're just not being honest with yourself. I say this from a place of someone who has transformed their life in like 3 months, essentially, to become more content just being. When I have all of my needs met, well, my needs are met all the time, pretty much. All the time. No, all the time. And all of these superfluous things like a car that I like, or a new, for me, a new computer, or a new place, or nice clothes, or all of these things in the external world. They're all just temporary solutions. Things for you to strive for, to distract yourself with, so that you don't ever have that moment when you're sitting by yourself and you say, why am I not content? It's because you're not being honest with yourself. Why do we get these CEOs, right? These people who are like top 100 CEOs of the world, and they're actually secretly miserable. Secretly or not so secretly. And like we see it in films and stuff, and like, why does that happen? Because money is one form of abundance. Every other form of abundance, like emotional satisfaction, comes from within. It comes from that internal world. It doesn't come from a nice car and nice clothes. It doesn't come from letting yourself be distracted by how productive can I be? Because that's a very easy thing to fall into, is like, oh, well, at least I'm more successful than that guy because I have more financial security. When really, once you have financial security, everything else is superfluous. And now you finally are at the point where, oh, well, I could pursue what I want to pursue. But when I have a moment where I'm resting, I actually don't feel like I'm resting because I haven't been honest with myself about what I do and what I don't like. And what I really would like to do if I wasn't living by the standards of the external world, when in reality, the only place you actually live is the internal world. You looking out, right? Inside looking out. So I need you to start being honest with yourself. And shed some tears. Like often when I do some reflection, when I realize I'm having a moment where I'm not content, I'm like, oh wow, like actually now it's exciting. I'm like, oh, what negative belief do I have about myself that I'm about to root out? And you'll find that whatever you were being negative about actually kind of like disappears. And you kind of have to like walk it back and be like, where did they go? Where did it go? What was I worried about? Because those negative beliefs about yourself, they want to keep propagating themselves. They want to exist just like you want to exist in a positive state all the time. It goes both ways. So be more honest with yourself. If you start to cry, it's probably because you're letting go of these faulty negative beliefs that say, I need to be this way when I am this way. Allow yourself to be the way that you are and be honest that you are that way, so that if you do actually want to change, and you're not just changing because the external world tells you you need to, then you can change because you've been honest with yourself about where you're at. But I think a lot of times you'll actually find there is a lot to appreciate about yourself. Because, I mean, you're the only you that there is. Nobody else can be you. So here my dog's going. So I'm going to end this. I love you. Be honest with yourself so you can love yourself, so you can have real rest and you can feel content with every sort of situation that arises. You'll know that I love myself and I can trust myself to have that integrity that I love so much. That honesty. All right. I love you. Take care.